I've mentioned previously that Hasbro likes to do fun little fan polls, and this is how figures like Siege, Mirage, and Impactor came to be. Turns out that apparently that specific poll was really about which figures got made first, as fellow contestants Spinister, Wheeljack, and Trax have all gotten toys since then, Needlenose being the sole exception. Another poll was held later to select which character out of RUNAMUCK, Gnaw, Shrapnel, and Needlenose would get a figure in Earthrise. Naturally, RUNAMUCK won. Gnaw is soon to come out in Studio Series, and Shrapnel is reported to belong to the upcoming Legacy toy line. Alas, poor Needlenose. Welcome to Kit Reviews. My name is Kit, and today we'll be taking a look at Transformers Earthrise Deluxe Class RUNAMUCK. This figure was released in 2020 as part of Wave 3 of the Deluxe assortment. The Transformers wiki says that RUNAMUCK is vaguely based on a Lotus Esprit, but to me this looks more like some kind of rundown 1980s coupe you'd find in a poor neighborhood. The golden stripe running across the hood and headlights is what really gives me this impression. It's kind of gaudy in such a way that it looks like RUNAMUCK is trying to appear much richer than he actually is. More gold runs down the flanks, and I almost wish the rims were painted gold as well. Instead, they're covered in this sick, chalky white paint that covers the rest of the car, even though most of it is molded in white plastic anyway. I guess the idea was to get a better color match between the bottom of the car and the top, which is almost entirely translucent plastic. There's not a single benefit to that either, considering you can't see anything inside, though if he's in a poor neighborhood, maybe that's for the best. RUNAMUCK would have looked much better if the entire shell was molded in white and if the windows were instead just painted over in black. Alas, apparently this is somehow more cost-effective, and I think mine is already starting to chip. Left alone long enough, a chip can lead to a crack, and that is exactly what I would describe all these transformation seams. Usually I don't give a shit about an ugly seam here or there, but with how skewed these lines are and how wide the gaps between them appear, I wouldn't say RUNAMUCK's nearly as bad as Universe Ironhide, but he's definitely in his sphere of influence. The original Generation 1 RUNAMUCK was a battle charger, a gimmick-saddled transformer whose specialty was a pullback motor and an automatic transformation in a similar vein to the Autobot Jumpstarters a year before. This shared heritage might conjure images of Titan's Return Topspin's absolutely insane transformation scheme and make you optimistic for that of RUNAMUCK. My friends, you must temper your expectations. It was no accident that I described the translucent plastic parts in vehicle mode as a shell, as their sole purpose is to become a backpack. Well, at least part of it was always meant to be a backpack, but the roof tucks away inside as a completely fake, much smaller roof sits on his chest. And boy, do I have a bone to pick with that. RUNAMUCK's robot mode, to put it nicely, is a shit show. From most angles, he's a fairly standard carformer with solid proportions and an inoffensive, though somewhat boring, color scheme. I'm by no means someone who thinks Generations figures always need to strictly adhere to their previous incarnations, but god damn could he use some of the orange that was on his original figure. He's desperate for any sort of livening up. Orange or no orange, the head sculpt still kicks ass. He's wearing what looks to be a squared-off crash helmet and a big mouth guard. His eyes are very cartoonish and not at all robotic, and it kind of works for him. The legs feature some massive stomping boots that would look more at home on an Accelerator's character design than on him, though the heel spurs have molded on fake wheels that call back to the kibble he had as a battle charger in the 80s. Unfortunately, his calves are completely hollow, bearing the tiny, though solid knee connection for all to see. If I were trying to cripple him, this is where I'd shoot. The last thing of note to talk about here is the chest. There's really no reason for this part to be fake. They could have easily used the true roof as the chest. It's certainly not too wide, or at least narrow enough that the shoulder clearance would only need a minor adjustment. He wouldn't even look bad with the true roof chest, certainly not as bad as Timeline's RUNAMUCK had. It's just frustrating seeing Hasbro do stuff like this when there really isn't need to. And for those of you who say the chest is meant to be smaller for show accuracy or whatever, there's another figure I'll be taking a look at real soon that handles that task much more easily. RUNAMUCK comes with but a single black pistol, which apparently is based on Runabout's gun. Funnily enough, the one Runabout comes with is based on what RUNAMUCK is supposed to wield. There's really nothing much to say about it, besides its compatibility with the larger combat system play pattern. RUNAMUCK features 22 dedicated points of articulation, fairly standard for a deluxe, and a few more joints that you can employ should you so desire. Neither the elbows nor the knees bend 90 degrees, though the latter can be alleviated by untabbing the knee from the shin, though this can look very unnatural. The heel spurs can't come down, but they can be pushed up some for transformation. Really, the only thing I think RUNAMUCK is missing is a wrist swivel, though considering how his hands transform, I can forgive the lack. Like I've mentioned in my Studio Series Leadfoot video, exclusivity is a bitch. In this case, it makes you want something you're honestly much better going without. I'm speaking, of course, about RUNAMUCK's repaint and partner in crime Runabout, who was a Target exclusive and a figure I have never once seen in person. I've come to realize that I don't really need Runabout in my life because RUNAMUCK was barely worth it to begin with. He's boring and uninspired, and his transformation offends my sensibilities. He's also covered in a chalky paint that really has no business being so prominent. He feels sickly and weak in the hands, and is overall an unpleasant experience. While not an outright bad figure, he's still one you should ignore. If you liked this video or otherwise found it helpful or informative, then please subscribe for more reviews like this in the future, and feel free to suggest topics for future reviews in the comments. When we return, we reach the midpoint of our last glance at Earthrise. This has been Kit Katastrophe, transform, and roll out.